How's it going, everybody? My name is John, and today we are here to talk about the go-home show for the Royal Rumble 2025, which is looking like one of the most stacked Royal Rumbles that we have ever seen, at least on the men's side. And we got some pretty good names on the women's side, too, with Charlotte Flair returning, possible AJ Lee rumor. But without further ado, let's talk about the go-home episode of Raw, as we will be doing predictions here on the channel a little bit later in the week you guys can look out for. Seth Rollins makes a hell of an entrance as always, which I do think it's always a good idea to have him start off the show. He's just got that good energy to him. Starts off the show and says that when he's on the best of his game and when he's focused, that nobody can touch him in the ring. Basically what Punk said a couple weeks ago, so we know the storyline, the rivalry between those two isn't over yet. As then Seth Rollins goes into how he's going to win the Royal Rumble, how he's going to throw out everybody who stands in his way, drops all the names that are going to be in the Rumble, and then says, which title am I going to go after? I can either go after Gunther, who, let's be honest, is just holding the title in my place till I come back and get what's mine. Or I can go for Cody Rhodes, who I helped win the title last year. I can take it away from him. As you can imagine, Gunther didn't take too kindly to being called a placeholder, as he came out and cut a hell of a promo, basically laying into Seth Rollins and said, if I'm a placeholder, then where have you been? He also says that Seth needs to turn off the noise, stop all this stupid drama revolving Roman Reigns and CM Punk, and actually focus on winning the Royal Rumble, which Gunther says he's not even sure Seth Rollins is capable of doing anymore. Seth has a good rebuttal and responds by saying, well, you know the difference between you and me? I'm synonymous with that world title, and when I come back to beat you, I will take back what's rightfully mine. Gunther responds, but right as they looked like they were about to get into it, none other than Logan Paul makes his return to Netflix with massive heat, absolutely massive heat. Throughout the segment, they overpowered him by chanting, "You suck," cutting off his promo. They weren't even going to let him talk at first. They also did him with the "what" chants repeatedly. There was a little bit of a funny moment between Gunther and Seth Rollins. As Logan Paul's music hit, the camera was on Seth Rollins, and he says to Gunther, "Who is that?" You just see Seth Rollins go, "Who is that?" As if he didn't remember Logan Paul's music. Hell, maybe he actually didn't. But Logan comes out and says, well, I'm declaring for the Royal Rumble. And what if I win the Royal Rumble? These two Nimrods, which is actually what he said, he called them Nimrods. And these two Tweedledee and Tweedledum are going to do all the work throwing out the 29 guys for me. And when I win the Royal Rumble, I can either challenge Cody Rhodes or you, Gunther, which Logan Paul said his name wrong. Gunther has a funny line where he says, you know what, Seth? I take back what I said. I don't need you to win the Royal Rumble. I want you, Logan Paul, to win the Rumble so I can slap that stupid smirk off your face at WrestleMania. I thought this was a great promo to start off Monday Night Raw. Set the tone really well for the night, built up the Royal Rumble a lot. I thought Seth had a lot of good lines. I thought Gunther had a lot of good lines. I thought the way that Logan came out in the heat and the way that he handled it was very entertaining. So that segment accomplished exactly what it needed to do. Great way to start off Raw. We then go to none other than CM Punk, who's backstage and has an interview with Kathy Kelly. As Kathy Kelly asks him, well, what are you going to do to win the Royal Rumble? And Punk says, I'm going to do anything I need to win the Royal Rumble. Hell, if you were in it, Kathy Kelly, I would throw your ass out of the Royal Rumble too. Punk then gets interrupted by Sami Zayn, who took issue with what Punk said last week, which is that Sami Zayn isn't on Punk's level. Sami Zayn goes, what, you don't think I'm on your level? Punk goes, yeah. Sami Zayn essentially says, well, I'll show you in the Rumble when I toss you out of here. As Sami's walking down the corridor away from CM Punk, Karrion Kross runs into him and says, hey, Sami, you know, the way you kicked Seth Rollins last week, I liked it. Sami Zayn said, whatever you're trying to do here, just stop. I'm not playing these stupid games with you, Karrion Kross. I'm a good guy. Stop trying to turn me into a bad guy. Karrion Kross said, well, maybe you should listen to your friends, take some advice from Seth Rollins and start thinking about yourself more. Or maybe you should listen to Kevin Owens and it can be you versus KO in the main event of WrestleMania. Karrion Kross walks away, and right as Sami Zayn is sitting there thinking about it, Cody Rhodes goes, hey, Sami, and Sami's like, oh, hey. Cody goes, oh, how are you doing? And Sami's like, oh, I'm okay. And he goes away clearly flustered and thinking about his future decisions. I think this angle that they're doing with Sami Zayn possibly turning heel and helping Kevin Owens is a really good angle, and it adds a whole nother level of intrigue to this match between Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, Because otherwise, I feel like we all know that Cody Rhodes is kind of supposed to be the champion going into WrestleMania, as much as it would be great to see Kevin with the title. And I do think that he would be a better actual champion than Cody Rhodes. I was going to say, see Kevin with the title. He technically has the title right now. But the Sami Zayn corkscrew that they're putting in this formulaic-ass match makes it really interesting. I thought that segment was a lot of fun. In direct continuation of the story last week, we then had the Raw Raiders versus the Judgment Day in a rematch for the World Tag Team Championships, as Dirty Dominic Mysterio was taking Finn Balor's place in this match without permission of Finn. And the first thing we got to talk about, and this is probably going to be the most memorable thing from this defense, JD McDonagh and Dirty Dominic attacked the War Raiders before the match, which eventually culminates with JD doing a moonsault off the apron towards the announce table, where I believe Eric was down there, and JD hits Eric and goes head first, back of his head into the announce table. And it was like, oh my God. Despite the match starting off with that, the match ended up being a lot of fun. And I think it did a lot to raise JD's stock, despite the fact that I do believe he came up injured after the match. He still had a lot of credibility for finishing it after the abuse that he took, not only there, but a little bit later in the match. Enough to the point where even commentary, Pat McAfee and Michael Cole, who don't shy away from making fun of JD McDonagh, basically said that he gave a great performance and that he earned a level of respect from them. And I think that translated. I think JD McDonagh, despite the Judgment Day coming up short in the match, which I don't know how happy Finn Balor is going to be about that next week, but I feel like his stock was raised the most out of anybody in the match. There was a great spot where Eric caught Dominic in a powerbomb position on the outside, and Dominic has the shirt hanging in between his legs, and it went over Eric's head. Eric, while blind, threw Dominic into JD McDonagh with the powerbomb. It was like, how did he do that? He can't fucking see. Eric keeps coming up in my notes as he was a great highlight during the match too. If JD was up here, then Eric also got his stock risen as he went off during the match, including a kick to the back of JD's head, which was gnarly looking. Eventually, Carlito came out. He did spit the apple, which I'm a little bit upset. I feel like Carlito needs to be doing more than just playing second fiddle to the Judgment Day members. Despite Carlito interfering, the War Raiders were able to retain, and as I mentioned earlier, Finn Balor is probably not going to be happy about this going forward, and maybe Liv Morgan won't be happy about it either. I think this match did really good to serve the story. Breakout performance from Eric and JD. Probably one of the best tag matches we've seen on Raw in a few months. We then cut to Pete Dunne, who's walking backstage, and he's confronted by Ludwig Kaiser, which is a very interesting dynamic. Always nice to see the Europeans interacting, as they're talking about the luchador problem. At least it seems like it. They're talking about Penta, and, you know, maybe we should teach these guys how to act. The New Day comes up and says, you know what, we agree with you. Let's teach these guys how to act. Butch and Ludwig are like, we don't want nothing to do with you. And they walk away. New Day is then surprised by Kathy Kelly as they blame the loss from last week that Kofi took on bad officiating, as Woods is going to try to step up as he's the hometown hero in Atlanta. And Kathy Kelly had some good lines where she was saying everybody else who's from Atlanta, including Austin Theory, Cody Rhodes. She said a few other names, but it was obvious Woods was from Atlanta, which played into the angle tonight, actually, as Woods' family was supposed to be there, where we all kind of knew where this was going after Kofi's family, but it turned out to be even more entertaining than expected. So then we get into the match, which was Rey Mysterio versus Xavier Woods. I don't remember too many spots from this match, but I ended up enjoying the match. It was a pretty good match. The highlight of which being is that Xavier Woods had like 7 seats in the front row reserved for his family with like Arial bold black writing on white copy paper. It looked really just thrown together, which was great. Woods was pretty stressed out at the start of his match because it seemed like his family wasn't going to show up, but eventually they did show up with little Yachty for some reason, and ended up kind of costing Xavier the match as they distracted him by wearing New Day Sucks t-shirts, as Xavier Woods Rey Mysterio picks up another win, rolling up Xavier Woods. And another thing I wanted to talk about during the match is they brought up that Zelina Vega is basically leaving the LWO and swapping brands from Raw to SmackDown, which I think is much needed. I thought the way that they did this was kind of strange. It kind of shows how crappy the LWO really is been in their run, because they have a member, Zelina Vega, who's been a member of this stable for well over a year, and she's leaving. She's leaving this stable for good, transferring brands. And I felt no emotion. Don't care. She has no connection to these guys whatsoever. I think she'll do a lot better on her own. And this, to me, was the weakest spot of Raw so far, but still not bad. Seth Rollins was then backstage as he was confronted by Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn said, hey, man, I want you to know for sure that kick last week was, in fact, an accident. Seth Rollins says, you know what? I can believe you, but the fact that you've been cozying up with this relationship to Roman Reigns does make me suspicious. And if this type of thing happens again, I'm not going to be so inclined to believe you. So Sami Zayn is on thin ice with Seth Rollins, which is going to tie into something that happened later in the night. Jey Uso follows, making his entrance with Quavo, who I feel like Quavo stuck around a little bit too long and was maybe a little bit too involved in the entrance. Jay's entrance was really long, but he ended up saying that he needed that because he did take that loss last Saturday and he wants to cheer up. Jay says that he knows he can beat Gunther, and he hears Seth Rollins and Gunther and everybody talking, putting his name in their mouth. Well, he's going to try to win the Royal Rumble and shut down all the haters. For me, this was kind of like a nothing segment. I guess it was a cool way for Jay to declare himself for the Royal Rumble, but for me, it wasn't really necessary. For me, Quavo doesn't do anything, so it's just kind of there. We have another backstage interview, which I feel like there was a lot of interviews and talking on this show, is we had Lyra Valkyria being interviewed by Jackie Redmond backstage, who says that she's going to enter the Royal Rumble, that she's looking for more success, she's happy to win the title, doesn't know who she's going to have challenge her. Ivy Nile, an American-made, come and say, well, your time with that IC championship is numbered, as Ivy Nile is going to take it from you. Little bit of a teaser segment to build up a feud between Lyra Valkyria and Ivy Nile, who I do like Ivy Nile. I like American-made. I think that they're a good stable. I think they got a lot of potential. So I'm curious to see where this feud goes. We then had some wrestling as we had Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Bianca Belair and Naomi. There was a great spot near the beginning of the match where Naomi had Raquel Rodriguez's head in between her knees and kind of did like a DDT looking move, faceplant move with her knees. It was some really innovative offense. After a bit of a long match with some good back and forth action between both teams, because we do have the former women's champion on one team, so we can't have them lose, or at least not lose quickly to the tag champs, because we don't want to bury Liv quite yet after a title run. But we had Bianca Belair catch Liv Morgan's Oblivion, grab her from the ropes, turn it into a KOD, but then Dominic Mysterio comes out, distracting the ref. A lot of chaos ensues that eventually results in Liv Morgan picking up the win against the tag champions. This win was a little bit confusing to me because they built up that Lash Legend, and I don't remember the name of the other lady on NXT, but that they were challenging Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill for the titles tomorrow on NXT, or technically today as of recording. Michael Cole dropped the line on commentary and said, oh, well, you got to expect Raquel and Liv are in line for a tag title shot after beating the champs. And it's like, well, now I kind of know that Bianca Belair and Naomi are going to win this title defense on NXT. That kind of takes away the purpose of that match. Maybe I'm biting my words right now as I speak, but highly expected that they'll retain now. Aside from that, I do think it was a good match. Nice little builder match. I guess I'm excited to see Liv and Raquel challenge for the titles, but they still don't really feel like a team to me. It kind of feels like Liv Morgan and then there's the bodyguard Raquel. They don't feel like an actual cohesive team to me. We then had another backstage interview as Kathy Kelly was talking to Rhea Ripley, and then Bayley interrupts, says, hey, I'm coming for you. Maybe I'll win that Royal Rumble since I won it last year. They had a little bit of an intense stare-off, and that was about it for that. There was then a lot of fun as we had Pat McAfee doing his little drawing play-by-play to make fun of Cole in that ridiculous orange attire from WrestleMania 27. If you guys are going to see anything from Raw, this is the segment to see. Pat had some great lines saying that Cole had 14 rolls in his attire back then, and also that he shaved his pits for that segment, which was great. They also replayed a video of Michael Cole missing the dap up with Quavo like 3 times, and Pat was like, never do that again. Pretty entertaining stuff. We then had the reveal of the WWE 2K25 cover as Paul Heyman came out to a massive pop, by the way. Paul Heyman is really over, and announced that Roman Reigns is in fact the cover of WWE 2K25. We're not going to get that too deep into it, but I think Roman's fine as a cover choice. Eventually, Drew McIntyre came out and said, hey, you should be thanking me because I'm the one that's built up the bloodline for this. I'm the one that's always been the Cain to its Abel, and I've been here building it up the whole time, and you should be thanking me. Drew also says to wish your boy luck in the Rumble. Paul responds by saying, all right, well, I'll let the Tribal Chief know that you're coming for him. And Drew goes, no, not the Tribal Chief. I mean your boy CM Punk. Drew says that he's going to be targeting Punk throughout the Rumble, which Punk has got a lot of bullseyes on his back. You got Sami Zayn, you got Seth Rollins, you got Drew McIntyre. That's going to be a lot for Punk to overcome, but that kind of makes me think that he could maybe win. I don't know. I'm kind of torn between him and John Cena. A little hint for my predictions later on. But then finally, getting into the end of the show, we had the main event, which was Sami Zayn versus Drew McIntyre, which Sami Zayn was 0-10 going into this match versus Drew McIntyre. Drew did a lot of big old chops to Sami Zayn to start off the match, just making his chest beat red. Eventually, Sami Zayn hits like a tornado DDT and somehow gets caught in the face, I guess, on his way down on the move, as Sami Zayn's nose was busted open, bleeding bad throughout the match. He definitely bled hard way. Drew went for a Claymore on the outside, which Sami Zayn evaded, which resulted in Drew getting draped over the announce table, which always looks good whenever his back has that impact after missing that move. There was this really good sequence that made Drew seem really powerful, where he hit a spine buster into a 2 count, picked him up into a sit-down power bomb. Just an absolutely beautiful sequence that Sami Zayn looked really strong for kicking out of. It looks like Sami Zayn is actually getting the better of Drew McIntyre a little bit. Drew's getting frustrated. He doesn't know how to put him away. And Drew McIntyre cheats to go up 11-0 to Sami Zayn by using the ropes in the corner as his leverage as he pins Sami Zayn. Drew then tries to attack Sami Zayn after the match, only to be saved by Cody Rhodes. Kevin Owens ended up coming out. Sami Zayn ended up haluva kicking Cody Rhodes, making this the second time Sami Zayn has kicked his friends in the face to end an episode of Raw. Or at least so we thought, until Cody started talking afterwards and cutting a promo, and CM Punk interrupted Cody's promo. Punk comes out as Cody's friend and says, "Are you all right?" And says that this long title run might be getting to Cody Rhodes. He knows from the time that he was champion for 434 days. And he says that, during that time, I went through something and it changed me, which Punk actually did turn from face to heel. So that's good chronology by WWE there to bring that up. But we all know where this is going. Punk beats around the bush a while as Cody and him trade some words. There was a lot said that I can't go over. So much said that I literally can't go over it. But it resulted in CM Punk saying, well, when I come for you, I'm not going to be like some of these other guys. But I am going to stab you right in the front. And as your friend, I feel like I should tell you that that's coming. Both of them grabbed each other as they were trying to leave the ring to stop each other, trying to get the last word. I thought it was a good segment. And it makes it seem like, hey, maybe CM Punk does have a chance to win the Royal Rumble. Maybe CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes is the match to get, which personally, I don't think it is. But it's a lot of fun nonetheless. So this Raw as a go-home show to the Royal Rumble was absolutely fantastic. Aside from the multitude of backstage interviews that happened during the show, which I feel like got a little bit repetitive, there's a lot of tension in these matches for the Royal Rumble. I'm excited for SmackDown to see if there's any other updates, and I'm excited for the Royal Rumble, which is what I feel like the show's main job was to do. So with that being said, I think it was a pretty good episode of Raw, maybe a 4.5 or a 4 out of 5, depending on where you sit with some of the segments and matches. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Raw as well as the review of it. I will see you all in the next one. Make sure you hit a like and subscribe. Peace out.